Hello everyone, it's Bill Goss here from Elite Publishing Academy, and I'd like to welcome my special guest today, Vicky Fraser. Hello Vicky.
Hello Bill. Thanks.
Excellent. No, thanks for jumping on board, and always like speaking with Vicky, always like talking with Vicky, because we're kind of in a similar game as it were, and I'd say Vicky has done exceptionally well since I've known her for probably 4 or 5 years plus now, I think.
Yeah, probably longer than that.
Probably is longer than that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it actually probably is, yeah. So, Vicky, just in case people haven't heard of you, which I know would be amazing if they haven't.
Oh, astonishing, I know.
Could you just tell people just a little bit about your kind of background, what you do, and then we get into a good conversation about the books.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm a writer, basically. That is what I do. I write the words and I make the monies, and I help other people to write the words as well. So my background is in direct response copywriting. That's what I started off as. And I was pretty good, certainly better than average. And I was, something that I quite enjoyed, but I didn't love it. I didn't love it enough to become truly great at it. And I was asked by a client to write a book for them. This is a good 5 or 6 years ago now. And I thought, oh goodness, yeah, let's have a go. And I absolutely loved it. I loved the whole process. And I kind of look back at that first book now and think, gosh, I've come a long way since then. But I've since written probably 12 books, ghostwritten 12 books for clients. I've written a couple for my own. I've coached 10 people to write their own books, and I've put a lot of people, like 30 or 40 people, through my How to Write Your Book course. And it was only last year, really, or a year and a half ago, that I realized that this is what I wanted to do. After people have been telling me, this is the thing that you should be doing, this is the thing you're really good at, and I did my usual, I'm going to resist that because, other people telling me what to do. And it took a bit of a meltdown in a field in France for me to realize what I wanted to do with my life. And it was help people to write books and publish books and just reach more people with, it's by far, I believe, the best way to help change people's lives is to write a book.
Well, yeah, you're speaking to a person that fully appreciates that and understands that. But it's hard, isn't it? Sometimes, getting commitment from people to do it, because it is a commitment, and there are fast ways of doing it and quick ways of doing it and all that type of stuff. I'm sure you can buy an Amazon course for 39 quid somewhere along the line. But, and also I think people, again, from my point of view, and I'm sure you'll have your own view, but sometimes they don't want to over commit to their truths, if that makes sense. And I think it's that resistance, like you say, to owning up to what you've done, or you don't feel like you're actually sitting at the, at the rich man's table, shall we say. Why would people listen to me? So I think people listening to this would like, your take on that, and how you kind of get across that barrier, really.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest obstacles that people face, that they've told me that they face, is, who the hell am I to write a book? And, the flippant answer to that is, well, who the hell are you not to write a book? But I totally understand where they're coming from, especially if you're not like the Tony Robbins of your industry or the Oprah Winfrey of your industry. You think, well, what have I got to contribute? And my answer to that is always the same. It's that, the Tony Robbins of the world and the Oprah Winfreys of the world are fantastic. They're inspirational. They're also untouchable. They are so far removed from where most of us are in our lives that, they're standing there on the top of their mountains, which is fantastic. And they're giving their truths away and, giving their information away and all that. But actually, I think what really changes people's worlds and helps people to make a real difference is hearing from somebody who's not that far ahead of them, who's been in the trenches and is still in the trenches. I still write books for myself and for my clients. I'm not somebody who's like, oh, I'm just, I just teach people to write books now. I still do it. I'm writing 2 books for clients at the moment, as well as my own books. And so I think that's really helpful, is for somebody to say, you know what, I haven't made it. I'm not at the top of my mountain. I haven't got £1 million in the bank. But this is how I'm doing it. This is how I'm progressing every day. And so if you are in a position in your business where, you've made some progress and you are presumably an expert in what you do, and if you're not, then that's a whole different set of problems. But if you're an expert in what you do, there are always going to be people who know far less than you, who are going to be grateful and interested in what you've got to say.
Absolutely, yeah. And also, I think a lot of resistance comes from, and we were talking just before we started this really, is people like myself who don't believe in their writing abilities, to kind of come to somebody like you and kind of say, look, can you help me? And like I say, there's different sections. I mean, explain as well. Obviously, there's courses to do. There's kind of the one-on-one, i.e. the ghostwriting. There's lots of different ways of, if you like, transcribing it and getting it out there, isn't there?
There are, yeah, and that's another common excuse, I guess, that people make is I'm not a writer. And my answer to that again is, well, if you write, you are a writer, and I know that you're a much better writer than you think you are, Bill, because we were talking about that earlier. And it's the same with everybody else, you know. Okay, so you might not be polished, you might not have the same skills that I've had from, you know, writing basically since I was 10 years old. You know, I was crap to start with. Nobody is born, you know, Dickens wasn't born and the doctor said, congratulations, you've given birth to a lovely baby writer. It's like, that's not how this works, you know. So you got to put the work in. And yes, you can take all manner of courses, and there are some great courses out there. I've got one. There are some great books out there. There are a lot of things that you can do to learn, but ultimately the very best thing you can do is to read a lot and write a lot. There is no shortcut. There is no, you know, there are a few tips and tricks, and there are a few, like Get the Elements of Style by Strunk and White. Still, it's a classic book, but it's still really relevant. And, you know, I've got a bunch of stuff on my blog, which is vickyfraser.com/blog, which is all about writing tips and things, just simple things like, you know, one of the most common edits that I make is delete the word that. It's 99% of the time, it just adds nothing to what you're doing. You know, if you could go through and delete the words you should and you could, because again, just say it. Just, you know, you could do this, just say do this. So it's little things like that you will learn as you go along. And, you know, you get to be a good writer and know what good writing is through reading good writing, and recognize what's bad writing as well when you read something bad and think, oh, that's awful.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of people as well, just in my time within book publishing, people will procrastinate over it because you are exposing the truth if you do what we do, as it were, you know, that kind of publishing of getting your expertise out there, for example. And people want it to be perfect, and it's never going to be perfect, is it? And I've kind of let that go a long time ago, but I've got people, you know, that help me out to do that. And I think that's what it is recognizing, look, the tool that it can become, and utilizing that tool in the right way, and don't get hung up over everything, because I think that's where a lot of people will stand still, and the amount of people that come to me, and we do lots of calls, you know, and all this type of stuff, and well, it's kind of 80% done, and you're like, how long's that been going on then? Well, about 2 years, 3 years. You're thinking, what's going to shove you, you know, and that's always the biggest question that I ask, you know, what's going to actually shove you over the hill, if you like, to really make you do it. And it's things like, you know, coming to experts like yourself to write it, or help writing, or whatever it is, coaching, whatever it is. I think people, if they really want to do it, they're going to do it, aren't they?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. This is another one of those things. It's like, what's your priority? If it's truly a priority for you, you will get it done. But I also understand that, like you say, it's a scary thing to do. Before I sent my book to my beta readers, it's with them now, as you know, because you sent it to them for me. I was sitting there before I hit send or hit the, you know, the email to you. I was sitting there nearly throwing up. It's really scary. And I do this for a living. You know, this is what I do. It is a scary thing to do, to create something and then put it out there to the world and say, this is my thing that I have made. Do with it what you will. Because there are always going to be people who go, you know what, this is a bag of shit. And if nobody says that to you, then you probably haven't done a good enough job of putting your heart and soul into it, because you know, there's always going to be people who hate what you do. But do not let that stop you. It's just, I find it tragic when people have got this amazing message to put out there and they let that perfectionism stop them. I understand it, you know, we all suffer from it, but don't let it stop you. And if there's a couple of ways you can get over it, I talk about it quite a lot in my book. I think it's called Sorting Out Your Inner Dickhead, because your inner dickhead will always sabotage you. If you've got the budget, hire an editor. A good editor will do wonders for your book and your confidence. And if you approach it with the attitude that, okay, I've created this thing, it's not ready to go yet. This is my shitty first draft, which is a marvelous thing. No, I need somebody to help me polish it. That's great. A professional editor will do an amazing job, and they will turn your shitty first draft into something that is awesome. If you haven't got the budget for an editor, and a lot of people haven't, and that's fine, then you go through the editing process. You know, you send it to beta readers, people who are kind enough to read it and say, you know what, I think this chapter would fit better there. And that's exactly what somebody did to me. He's like, this isn't your first chapter. You know, this needs to come a little bit later. Yeah. So that was completely invaluable. So yeah, you can get help from people, you know, all over the place.
And that's, yeah, just rewind slightly there. So just to confirm, your new book is titled at the moment.
The title is How the Hell Do You Write a Book? Because I thought that pretty much summed up what most people think when they're like, write a book? What? How the hell do you do that?
And within that, what Vicky's done, again, which is a really clever way, exactly, and I'm kind of just going back over what she said really there, is she sends it out to numerous beta readers that all put their hands up and said, yeah, I will give my time to you and give you honest feedback. And like I say, that is a great way, if you're writing it yourself, is to get that honesty back, isn't it? And, you know, not everyone's, you don't want people there just, you know, giving you high fives all the time, do you? You want people to be honest with you.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, there are ways. I've written a couple of articles on this recently, actually, because obviously it's been playing heavily on my mind. But if you go, it's really hard to receive criticism. It really is. Even when you've asked for it, I will spend the first couple of minutes going, oh, well, okay, whatever. And then you have to remember, I've asked for this. I've asked for this because I want my book to be as good as it can possibly be. And as soon as you reframe it like that and receive it in the spirit in which it's intended, and as long as the people who give your criticism are saying, you know what, I think this could be better if you did this, rather than just, oh, I didn't like this, or this isn't very good. That's not helpful. And you know, it's just mean. But if they say, I don't think this worked because, and how about trying this, then that's incredibly valuable. I am so profoundly grateful to my beta readers for the time and effort that they're putting into reading my book. It's, you know, I'm blown away by them, to be honest. And I know that the book will be an amazing book because of that. Absolutely.
And the first book that you published as well, did you do the same process? It was different completely, yeah?
It was totally different, yeah, because when I wrote my first book, I remember being like, oh, I'm going to do this thing. And I stood up in front of the mastermind group and said, I'm going to do this thing and I'm going to do it in 90 days. And then I was like, oh, shit, I better do this thing. And I did. And I'm proud of that book because it's the first one that I wrote. But
it's a good one.
Yeah, it is a good book. And, you know, I've had people write to me and say, this book has, you know, it's transformed my business, my life. I've had the first Christmas, you know, that's out of poverty ever, thanks to your book, which is incredible. You know, I've had messages that have brought me to tears. I still think that, you know, I look back on it now and think, gosh, I could do so much better. And that's fine because, you know, that's part of the history and evolution of becoming a better writer and, you know, writing a better book. I think this method is by far the best because if you can get the ideal reader of your book to read it and give you feedback and say what works and what doesn't, it can't fail to be better after that process. And
yeah, I agree 100%. And so this book now, you know, what have you done so different? Obviously, you're helping others write their books. Do you have a formula, or is you know, I know everybody's different, but do you, when you're working with clients, not only just on your own book, obviously with your own clients, is there kind of a formula that I'm not saying give us all the trade secrets, but you know, do you use a kind of like, right, we're going to do this kind of roughly, this is how it's going to be, and this is what we're going to do, or is everyone different?
There's a little bit of both because I do have a framework that I like to use. But having said that, I've worked with people before who have really struggled with it. And so I really try and find out what they work best with and what they struggle with. And, you know, for people who struggle with the actual writing side of things, I might be like, you know what, let's dictate it. Let's do this slightly differently. Let's do it as a series of interview questions instead. With most people, I think, tend to suit my outlining framework and you know, you start with your big idea and then you narrow it down and hone it. And there's a few things that I do there. But I do, if I'm coaching people, I mean, that's the thing that I teach in my course because, you know, I can't tailor that because it's a course.
Yeah.
But if I'm coaching people, there's a bunch of different stuff that I will do and I will work with people's strengths and I will try and get them to do what feels comfortable to them. So I don't really, you know, my way of writing a book is not, it's definitely not the only way, not even necessarily the best way for anybody. So I try and kind of work with what people are good at.
So with this brand new book that's going to be released any month soon.
Early June.
Early June. So yeah, what was the main thoughts of obviously writing the book? I mean, I know it sounds pretty simple, but what made you think, well, actually, this is what I really want to write about?
So it started off with, I know how powerful a book can be for a business owner, in terms of, you know, finding better clients, doing the marketing and all the rest of it. But I also know how incredibly powerful it can be for building your confidence as well. You learn so much. Writing your book, you surprise yourself as to how much you learn. You learn more about what you do as well because of the research that you put in. And the confidence that it brings is just one of those hidden benefits that people don't really talk about very much. And I just wanted people also to understand that writing their book actually can change people's lives for the better. And again, that's so cool. It really is. And so that's what I wanted to get across. But I also realized that writing a book is a massive thing to do. It's really scary for most people. Even for writers and authors, it's a massive deal. So I didn't want it to be another one of those books where you're like, oh, you can do these 10 things and, this is how it works, or just a big woolly, oh, let's do this and let's do that. I wanted it to be a really specific, if you do these things and break it down into what I call tiny beetle steps, you will have a book by the end of it. And, I'm not promising that it's going to be done in a week or even a month. It might take a lot longer than that. But I am promising that if you do all of the things, you will, you will have a book that is fantastic and that you can be proud of. And that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to take people from how the hell do you write a book to, oh my God, I've written a book.
Yeah. No, and it makes perfect sense. And, obviously I've seen the initial draft of it, and it is fantastic. It's a lovely, easy read in a way that it flows nicely, and you can, like you say, the point of it is to take someone who's scared of it, a bit like me. Ooh, even though I've done 5 myself, but every time I panic a little bit, like a little bit clammy ham just thinking about it. But that's the whole point of it, isn't it? Is taking people and kind of walking them through it without dumbing it down, without trying to dictate either as well. I think it's written lovely the way that it kind of flows through as well to help people.
Thank you. That's exactly what I wanted to achieve. I wanted people to first realize that this is something that they can do. They absolutely can do if they want to, that they don't have to. I hear a lot of gurus kind of say, oh, you must write a book and it must be the next thing you do on your marketing list. And I don't really subscribe to that. I think a book is more important than that. So, you don't have to write a book, but if you want to, then it's something you absolutely can do. And I also wanted to kind of break down those barriers as we went through, I know this is difficult. Here's how we're going to get over it. And, you might struggle with this. This is one of the ways that you can get over it. So yeah, I'm glad it works like that.
and would you agree, again, this is just from my point of view really, would you agree to start with, if people are a little bit daunted, is just change the wording slightly to write a guide instead of a book, or does it depend on the genre that you're writing in or whatever? Do you know what I mean? Because that's what I think kind of helps sometimes, just certain wording for people, is that it doesn't have to be a masterpiece. Just get writing, and learn your craft a little bit,
Yes, that's a really good point, actually, because I think in the book I talk about that a little bit, that people think that because they're writing a book, it has to be this huge, great, big thing. And I think that comes from insecurity. Oh, my book won't be a proper book unless it's like War and Peace.
I always get that from men, by the way.
Do you?
How big's it got to be? Surprise, surprise, And it's true, how many pages has got to be? I don't know, how good's the content, Yeah,
and you know what? I think that very question or that very worry leads to so many crap books. How many books have you read, that could be great books, and there's some on my shelf back there that are quite famous, could have been written in half the pages because it's been padded. And you can tell when it's been padded because you get bored and it's like, oh, this is fluff, you said this already. And that's, I think, comes from that insecurity of, oh, I'm writing a book, therefore it has to be big. No, it doesn't. It just has to be good and interesting and useful and valuable. And that might be a 30-page pamphlet, or it might be a 300-page, textbook. So no, it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be anything. It has to get your message across and make a difference in somebody's world.
Absolutely, yeah. So even for you as a craftsperson with the writing skills, what was kind of the hardest thing still for you when you're either outlining the book, writing it, whatever? What do you find the hardest? What do you kind of think? Oh no, don't want to do this.
Sitting down to write.
Yeah. Really? Oh,
yeah,
wow.
yeah. Because I've thought a lot about this. I think because it's just a big thing to do. It's a big thing to do. It's a big commitment to make. Once I'm sat down and I'm working, it's great and I'll get into the flow and I love doing it. But I will find 33 things to do before I have to sit down and write. And so I have to be really disciplined about it. Some days I do better than others, but it's like, that I find difficult. I also find really difficult sending it out to people for feedback. It's painful. It's really painful. It's great, and it's equally as difficult, I think, to receive really good feedback, which sounds kind of counterintuitive, but if you're anything like me, there's always that little voice in your head going, you're shit, actually. And so if somebody says this is fantastic, you're like, really? I don't think so.
Yeah, you don't need it.
Yeah, exactly. So what's your ulterior motive here? Which is just stupid. It's like going back to you're in a dickhead. So obviously receiving criticism is also painful, even though it's sent with the best intentions and it's going to be useful. It's really scary. It's really scary putting something out there and saying to somebody, what do you think of this? When you've put that much time and effort and kind of love into it as well. It's fairly horrific. So yeah, that I find really difficult.
And people listening and watching to this, if and when they have the book in their hands, what would, like you say, I know the niceties in it, but if you've read it, what would you like the reader to take from it? One thing. I know it's hard, probably many things, but the one big thing from you that you'd like, once they've got it in their hands, they've read it.
I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
That's what I would like. I can do this and I will do this.
Take action.
Yeah, I don't want it to be just a book that people kind of flip through and think, oh, that was nice, and then they put it away. And not everybody is going to read the book and then use it and do something. Some people will need the course. So it's like, for me, I don't always do things from books. I will then go and buy the course or whatever, because that's really helpful. But what I want people to take away is, I can do this and I will do this. Yeah,
no, I agree, and I think that's. Again, I haven't read it cover to cover. I've gone through the bits and bobs. I'm not one of your beta readers, I know, but I do skip through people's books, and what I've read of it is lovely and easy to read. And I think it will motivate with the right way, not in a woo-woo, let's go for it, in that kind of actually, like you said, bite-sized beetle steps, and it's true. And I think a lot of people that we both work with, for some reason, we get it. We understand it might not be their day-to-day thing, writing a guide, a book, or whatever. But once they've created it and implemented, because remember, there's lots more things to do after it's been written.
Yeah, it's only the start, writing the book.
So I think that's the key thing is, well, you tell us, what would you recommend people listening to this? They haven't got it yet, but just that kind of the first steps, really, that people should take.
After they've written the book?
Yeah.
So yeah, you need a website for sure. That's one of the things, actually. If your title is available as a URL, buy it immediately, as long as it doesn't cost very much money, because you can redirect it. But you want a landing page for your book, and then you want a little funnel to get people to go and buy it. So, because it's all very well writing a book, nobody's going to read it unless you put it out there and get them to. So, send people to your book page through your email list. If you haven't got an email list, actually, that's the first thing you need to do. I'm kind of assuming people have got an email list. That's the first thing you need to do. You need to send people to your books.
Not many people do. And this is the thing that always baffles me as well, is it's creating that, isn't it? It's creating the list and creating the warm-ups, if you like. And I'm sure you're the same as me. I always say to people, look, I know you're writing the book and you're running your business, your family, whatever else you're doing, but you've got to treat it like a product at the end of the day. I know a lot of people say, well, I'm not doing it really for money, and that it doesn't necessarily be about money. It's about the follow-on process as well. And especially if you're writing a business book, then it should be about the money and what you can help other people with thereafter. But I always say, look, whenever you're writing the book, you should be promoting it well in advance anyway.
Yeah. Also, I kind of call bullshit on the I'm not doing it for the money thing. It's like, people say that because they don't want to be seen as mercenary, but it's like, you've written this thing, surely you want people to read it. If you want people to read it, you need to get it out there. Otherwise, why have you done it? That's when we get back to vanity publishing, which is like, oh, I just want to have a book on my shelf. It's like, no, you've written this thing because you think people need to hear your message, so get it out there, And like Terry Pratchett said, what every artist wants more than anything else is to be paid. Damn right they do. You can't pay the bills with likes and shares.
No, absolutely, 100%. And my kind of company's catchphrase now, or I've stolen it from many people, but is facts tell, stories sell. And that's the whole point of it all. It does sell. It sells on you as a person. It sells you as your company, who you work for, whatever you're doing it for. Within that book or that guide, it really does help elevate you, authority-wise, credibility, etc., etc. But it helps you sell stuff.
Yeah.
And once people, it's the know, like and trust method, I know, but it's very much that. Once people have taken their time, it's what you've got to think about, whether it's a 50-page little guide or 300-page, they've taken their time to actually read your words. Yep. And if they like it, guess what? They're going to take action at the end of it.
Yeah, and they're going to share it with their friends. They're going to recommend it to people. They're going to tell other people about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So just tell us again the title of the book.
How the hell do you write a book?
Brilliant. And is there a subtitle yet?
There isn't. I've forgotten it. Hang on. I'm going to have to dig it out now. Hang on 1 second.
That's all. We'll keep padding. Don't worry about it. That's fine. So it's going to be available in June.
It's going to be available in June. I'm getting it back. I'm getting the beta feedback back on hopefully by the end of the day on Friday. So next week is it about next week? Yeah, next week I will be doing some editing and incorporating the changes that I want to incorporate and all the rest of it.
And how long has this one taken? Because people are, again, obsessed with a number of pages and how long it takes to write. So how long has this one taken you to do, like, on and off, as it were?
So this is really interesting because I talk about this a bit in the book, actually. I went away about a year and a half ago to write a different book for a week, and I wrote the sum total of 2,800 words, which is barely an article.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this is ridiculous. And there's a couple of reasons for that. But this book, I went off to Lanzarote for a week with 3 other people who were also writing a book. And that was the most valuable thing that I did. I wrote my entire first draft in a week. So I had my outline, my rough outline and ideas and stuff before I went. And I just spent the whole week writing it. Since then, I've probably spent another week doing an edit of the shitty first draft, probably another week doing various bits and pieces, getting it out to the beta readers. They've had it for 2 weeks now, or they will have had it for 2 weeks. Yeah. And I'm probably going to spend another 2 weeks when I get that back doing a final edit, hopefully, get it proofread. So I'll probably be, I don't know, a couple of months in the end.
That's not bad at all, is it?
No, it's not bad at all.
Sorry to interrupt. When you went to Lanzarote, I'd like to pick up on that really. So you went away for what, a week, did you say?
Yeah.
Yeah. And what was it, like a remote place, or just a normal hotel, or what? You know, did you kind of go off in a little camp somewhere? What was that?
It was an Airbnb in a little village, lovely little village, and it was November, so it was a little bit off season. And it was just 4 of us, and we went specifically to do the writing. And we got into a little routine. It would be like, some people would get up super early. I don't do that. And you just work all day, go and have lunch, do a bit more work, go out for dinner in the evening, and it was really focused. And it was a bit of a dry run really, because I'm going to be running high-end book writing retreats from next year, because there is honestly nothing more valuable that if you really want to get this done and you want to invest in it and you want it to become a tool, going away for a week with somebody like me to guide you and a bunch of other people who are just focused on getting their books done in an amazing place, you will get it done, especially
good idea. Yeah, very good idea. Yeah,
especially if you're investing the kind of money I'm going to be charging for these retreats.
As long as it's a luxury spa somewhere.
Oh, it will be total luxury. Yeah, I basically just want to go to Bali.
But I picked up on that because I do think sometimes taking yourself out of it in whatever areas of business you are in. The times that I've done that and come away from the office and the production facilities, I'd never go there hardly any times anymore at all. Far from it, because I'm not needed to be there. So I'm still the lead singer of the band and do all that stuff, which I enjoy that. That's what I like doing. But taking yourself out of it, and again, writing a book, going away and doing it, like you say, is a headspace, no distractions, maybe a mobile phone, maybe, but it's a really good idea, isn't it?
It's a fantastic idea, and it's one of the best pieces of advice that I can give to people is, you really struggle to make time for this kind of thing. You really struggle to make time for it, and trying to fit it in piecemeal here and there. If you can put like a day a week aside, that's fantastic. And I think everybody can shuffle things around, or like maybe 2 half days. But if you can manage to take yourself away for a week and get away from everything, just to, I'm going to get my first draft done, I'm going to get the whole thing done, then that is an incredibly cool thing to do. It's really valuable. And I can't recommend it highly enough.
No, I agree. And again, it's all right for Vicky and I to say it and everything, but we've seen so many people benefit from writing their books, not just financially, but let's be honest, a lot of people make a lot of money from not just selling their books, but their courses, webinars, blah, 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 blah. The list will go on, and so it should. And you can make, there's no, like Vicky said, you'd be lying to say, if you're going to spend this time, money, effort, blah, 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 to get it done, you might as well make some money out of it as well. But it also helps you, as I say, within your own business expertise to really elevate yourself, doesn't it? It really does lead on to, I say it to I'm blue in the tooth, and it's people like yourself as well who's a testament to that, and lots of other people that, once they've done it, and we know it can be hard and time consuming, but you make it as hard and time consuming as you want though. It's up to you, isn't it?
Exactly, yeah.
You get stuff done pretty quickly if you really want to do it. But once you've done it, boom. And if you market it the right way and position yourself in the right way, because I say there's lots more to it that, Vicky can discuss and go on about as well. There's more to it than writing the book. It's a lot to do with the marketing side of things as well. But once you've done it, you spent some money, because guess what, people? It does take a little bit of money to get it done and marketed properly. But once you've done it the right way, there's no going back, I don't think.
No, it's an incredibly powerful thing to do in so many ways. Yeah, it's just really worth doing, really. Yeah, write your book.
Absolutely. So one last time, and with the subtitle, give it to us.
How the hell do you write a book, unleash your inner author, and write your business book one simple step at a time?
Boom. Love it. Excellent. Okay, Vicky, thanks ever so much. So where can people hear from you or hear about you?
You can sign up for my daily emails, which are marvellous, at vickyfraser.com. You can go to the book website, howthehelldoyouwriteabook.com, and pick up your copy of the book, which it'll be available for pre-order hopefully next week or the week after. Well, so I don't know when this is going to go out. I don't know what I'm saying, but it's available for pre-order now. And then when it's out, you'll be the first to get a copy.
Brilliant. Thanks ever so much, Vicky. Thanks for your time, and we will see and speak to you soon.
Thanks, Bill.